everybody, how is it going? My name is Lucas, and today we are going to be checking out the mean magenta rack preamp known as the X88IR. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, what it does, play some tunes from it, and we're going to discuss all kinds of things. So without any further ado, let's jump in and discover what exactly is the X88IR. The X88IR from Soldano is actually a reissue of the original X88. It actually came out in 1988, so it is as old as me, but this reissue we have here is kind of completely different. The original X88 came about when legendary rack builder Bob Bradshaw went to Mike Soldano and he's like, hey, I'm working with Steve Lukather from Toto and we really like your SLO 100, but is there any way you could put it into a rack form? And thus the X88 was born. The X88 and the X88IR is the complete preamp section from the Soldano SLO. And the way that Mike built the SLO 100 is that it gets its distortion and flavor, so to say, it gets it from the preamp section and isn't as dependent on the power amp section as other amps were at that time for its distortion. So it's kind of unique in that fact. So if you put it in a rack setting in a preamp, you have all of that nice flavor tucked right in the little preamp. And back in the 80s, rack gear was the thing. People had these huge racks they would tour. They had all of their effects, all of their amps, their power amps. It was a very big thing. It's kind of starting to come back a little bit now, but back then it was the absolute biggest thing there was. And Mike actually only made about, I think, 300 to 320 X88s. If I get that wrong, please let me know in the comments down below. So if you ever come across an original X88 on Revv or eBay or anywhere, you will see that they are quite expensive since there's not that many of them out there in the wild. Basically, every high-profile guitarist in the 1980s was using a Soldano of some kind. Warren DeMartini from Rat, Michael Landau, George Lynch, Steve Lukather of Toto, Lou Reed, Mick Mars of Motley Crue, Howard Leese from Heart, Mark Knopfler, Eric Clapton, Chris DeGarmo, and Michael Wilton of Queensryche, and even the legendary Eddie Van Halen used an SLO. He primarily used it on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album. He used primarily SLO, and he had a little bit of flavor of the Prototype 5150 in there also. The X88IR basically has every preamp modification that Mike Soldano would do to all of the SLO 100s. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I'm fairly certain it has all of them in there. If you wanted it on an SLO 100, you'd have to call in Mike and he would put them. So he would put in depth knobs, he would put in like a bright switch, and even the altered mode, which is on the clean mode, which we're going to check that out. That's the SRV. The X88IR has basically every preamp modification that Mike Soldano would do to his SLO 100s. Now you'd have to call in and you'd have to kind of special order if you wanted them on there, but I'm pretty sure it has all of them. Now, if I get that wrong, please let me know in the comments down below. On the X88IR, you have three channels. You have a dedicated clean channel, which it's always clean 100% of the time. And the second and third channels can either be your crunch channel or your overdriven channel. Both channels have the same exact controls, so you just kind of have to tell it which channel you want to be what. I just kind of have it in order of gain stage. So I have it as clean, crunch, and then lead. What makes the X88IR different than the original X88 is you have a bright and fat switch on the beginning of each of the channels. And another really cool thing is that you can load IRs on the X88IR, hence the IR in the title. And it also has power amp modeling out. So on the balanced outputs or the XLR outputs on the back of the X88IR, if you run that to your computer, or like I'm doing it here for the demo, I'm running it to my Axe Effects, it has power amp modeling built in. If you look on the Soldano website, it says that it is modeling a 120 watt amp. What I believe they're using for the power amp modeling is they're using the SLO 100 power amp modeling from NAMM. NAMM is a digital modeling system that models amps. You can model amps, you can model preamps, you can model pedals. It's actually 100% free. My friend Steve is actually the one who came up with it, and he's doing it full time now. So check out NAMM on the web, and you can download it, and there's tons of cool profiles. It's a really cool free system that you can use on your computer to play guitar. It's really nice. The flexibility of the X88IR is absolutely astounding. You can run the XLR to the front of house if you want. You can run it to your Axe-Fx, your Helix, your Quad Cortex if you want, and then you can run that to the front of house if you want, or you can just run it straight out the back and run it to the front of house if you want. You can run it into a big amp or an amp at any of the gigs that you have, running that into the return side of the loop on that amp, and you can use the power section of an amp and you can run that to a cab if you want, or you can use it like a little combo and you can use it right there. And you can, it's also fully MIDI programmable, so you can program any and everything you want on how it changes its channels. It is so flexible in the way you want to set it up. It is absolutely amazing, and it fits in a nice little rack for you. Now, we have heard the type of awesome distortion tones that the X88IR can do. Now, let's check out some clean tones. This is usually most guitarists' least favorite section of a video, but the clean tones on the X88IR are actually amazing. Let's check out and see what they sound like. I'm using my parts caster. I have some bare knuckle Irish Tours for the single coils, and that's primarily what you're going to be hearing. Now, what you're hearing right now is, it's kind of a classic 80s type of tone. I got some chorus, I have some delay on here, and I also have the cab turned off. So you're just hearing like pretty much like effects and preamp as what I got going on right here. And this was pretty much what a lot of people used for their clean tone back in the 80s. And it sounds really cool. It just kind of gives it that kind of like spankiness. And it sounds extra cool if you use single coils for it, but I know that's not exactly ideal. So let's hear what it sounds like if we just use a cab. So this is going to be like purely like clean, like I switched to a different patch on my Axe-Fx, and this is just going to be like the straight up clean tone. I really like the clean tone on here. I'm usually like not a super like picky clean tone person, to be honest with you. I use my Axe-Fx a lot for the cleans, but just using the clean tone on here, it just makes me want to sit and play clean. That's just how awesome and great it sounds. And that's pretty much it for the clean tone. So you have an awesome clean tone on here that will go well with any of your effects. You don't have to worry about, oh, I got some cool distortion channels, but how's the clean tone? Because that's usually what lacks a lot of the time when you're using high gain amps. I use that in quotation marks, but the clean tone on here is absolutely fantastic. Now, let's see what the X88IR can do with some modern heavy gain tones. was the awesome lead channel of the SLO 100. Now, I know it's called lead, but what I was technically playing there was rhythm, but playing some drop C metal on the X88, it feels really, really awesome, because Killswitch Engage did use an SLO 100 on As Daylight Dies, and that was what that song, that riff I played you, was from, and it sounds amazing. Now, in modern times, a lot of people have kind of like moved away from the SLO tone when it comes to like a lot of high gain stuff, but I still think it sounds amazing. And I'm using my Mayonnaise Duvel. It's in drop C. I have some bare knuckle war picks for the pickups, and I'm kind of going to talk a little bit about the gear that I used for the video today. So for all of the clean and rock stuff and crunch stuff, that was all I used was my Boss Blues driver, and it's the Wazacraft one, and it was in the S position, and the level was either at about 9 o'clock or like 10 and noon. That's kind of like all where it was for that. I kind of left it on for everything. The pedal is amazing. And then for the high gain stuff, I'm using my Revv Tilt Boost. It is nothing super fancy. I just have both of the knobs, the boost and the tilt EQ, that they're at around 9 o'clock. I have the drive off, and I have the tight knob in the middle. I kind of had to play around with the different drives that I wanted to use for the X88. And I know a lot of people are already saying, why you spend all that money on that preamp and you're still boosting it? Because I like boosting my amps, because I kind of use them as kind of like EQ and clean up a little bit of mud. Okay. I tried out my tried and true Maxon 808 with the X88. I didn't really like it that much. I tried my Lichtlerm, the King in Yellow pedal, which I really love on my Revv 100R that's behind me, and it didn't exactly vibe with it that well. What ended up vibing with it was my Revv Tilt Boost when it comes to high gain. It just did what I wanted it to do. It gave it a nice little like punch of juice, and it gave it a nice little shine on the top end, and it sounds really great, and I really liked what it does. It just adds a little bit more to it, and it doesn't necessarily affect the tone all that much. Now, when it came to the crunch stuff and even the clean, I just used my blues driver, because the blues driver is like perfect. It just does everything well. You can use it well as a clean boost. You can give yourself more juice for leads, which is what I did when the intro song that you heard. It's so flexible. It works so well. It kind of loses its edge whenever you're going into like kind of high gain stuff, which is why I went to the tilt boost. But the blues driver just works perfect for so many things. And I had to kind of match IRs to it too. I went to my tried and trusty GGD Contenders pack mesas that I was using, and I was using GDD Cali, which is some mesa cabs. I tried using that on it, and it didn't exactly give me the tone I wanted. I ended up on the GDD Zilla IRs, which I haven't really used in a while, and it vibes absolutely perfectly with the X88. So if you get one of these, my advice to you is try different drive pedals, try totally different things, try different IRs to get the sound that you want, because it's very finicky. It likes what it likes, and it doesn't like what it doesn't like, if that makes any sense. And I kind of want to include that in here, because some of you may have gotten the unit and you're like, man, I'm just having a hard time getting the tone I want. You have to kind of work and try some different things to kind of get the tone that you want out of it. One more thing I kind of want to touch on is you do get the Soldano Editor with the X88IR. It lets you mess with the depth, the presence. It's kind of like a little slider knob. You can do low, medium, or high. I have everything on medium for the demo you heard. You can do a high pass, you can do a low pass. It lets you load your own IRs in there. You can use the IRs that come included with it. You can also export the IRs that are on the X88IR onto your computer or your system. It's really cool. I like that you can do that. I've been running with the IRs off. They also let you turn it off, because I'm using my Axe-Fx for all the IRs today. I just kind of want to go over that a little bit, and it lets you change the different modes. You can't move the knobs on it, but you can move the different channels. You can do the MIDI programming. You can do a lot of stuff with the software, and it's actually kind of really nice. Just do some technical stuff real quick, because I know a lot of people find this kind of boring. The way I'm running the X88IR, I've kind of hinted to it, is I'm running the power modulation XLR out. I'm running that into one of the ends of my Axe-Fx, and the Axe-Fx is running into my interface in Spitif. To me, this is like the perfect hybrid rig, because I have 2 preamps, and then I'm using IRs, and I'm putting it right into my computer. So it makes recording with real live tubes super easy, and you don't need an attenuator because you don't have a power section, which makes it great. But if you want to, you can run the X88IR. You can run that to an amp, like I said earlier, run that to the return. of an amp. I've done it with my Revv 100R. You run it into that, and you run my amp into an attenuator, and the attenuator runs into my Axe Effects, which runs into my computer. So as you can see, I'm kind of routing everything through my Axe Effects, which it just makes my life a whole lot easier when it comes to recording, because I kind of already have that all set up. Final thoughts on the X88IR. I love this preamp a lot. The whole reason I got this preamp was because, spoiler alert, I'm doing a big video on Soldano stuff, and I started researching stuff and listening to clips and listening to stuff, and I caught the Soldano bug very, very bad. I went very deep down the rabbit hole. I looked at the SLO 100, I looked at Avengers, I looked at the Hot Rod 100, the Hot Rod 50. I even looked at the Hot Rod 25, which is like the SLO 30. The SLO 30 is based on the Hot Rod 25, but I find the 25 sounds a little bit better. I looked at that because I actually found one local, and it wasn't all that expensive, and I went around and around trying to find one, and I kind of settled on the X88IR, what my friend Kyle told me to like get in the first place, because it has all of the preamp mods that you could ever want. You have bright and crunch and fat, and you can run it into your computer, or you can run it into your Helix, your modeling, or to use IRs. So it's so super flexible, and honestly it fits me perfect because I already had a rack system going. And if you can see the X88 back there, I actually bought a bigger rack to fit everything in, because now I have like a shelf, like I have a whole total rack system, which is kind of important to me because a few years ago Hurricane Ida came through and I got water in my house. Luckily, my studio that I'm sitting in now was not touched. The south side of my house was not touched. North side of my house, it tore the roof down to the wood. So if that would have been reversed and it would have happened back here, I'd have lost all my stuff because I didn't have that much time to leave. I was packing my stuff. But if that happens again and I do have to evacuate, I throw the covers on my rack, I'm out the door, I have all my stuff. And that was very important to me. So it sits nicely in a rack. The on button is on the back, which is, I get it because it's in a rack. That is a little bit weird for the X88 because I kind of have to like reach around and like turn it off if I just want to use my Axe Effects. But it's really not that big of a deal to me. I know this is getting kind of boring, and I'm gonna finally like wrap things up. The way I'm splitting my signal is I'm using a Layla passive signal splitting box. So I'm running the signal to my Axe Effects, and I'm also running it in front of the X88 into my pedals. And I'm using the X88 like a pure amp. So meaning I'm putting stuff in front and I'm just having the Axe Effects come in the back, and I'm using it for counter effects and stuff. And I got pushback when I actually like shared what I was doing, because I made a video on the Layla if you want to check that out. And people are like, why doesn't you split it inside the Axe Effects? I wanted to treat the X88 like a real amp. I want it to be like a real amp setup, so that's kind of like why I have it set up the way I do. Overall, I love the X88. It is so flexible. It sounds great. If you want something that has tubes in it, this is the way to go. Throw it in a rack. It's easy to connect to your computer. And I know it's expensive, okay? I know a lot of the stuff I talked about, a lot of stuff I said on here is very expensive. But if you really want to get a tube amp, or a tube preamp, I should say, you really need to check this out. Because if you look at them on Reverb, I've seen them under $2,000. If you're looking at the buy them used, you can get them under $2,000, which is insane. I really like rack gear, but I don't really think a lot of other people do. They kind of just want like little amp heads they can carry everywhere. But if you want something that sounds amazing and it's not super expensive, and I know a lot of people, I know what you're already saying, well, that's $2,000 is really expensive. It kind of is. But if you look at like the landscape of amps, a SLO 100, the newly reissued ones from Boutique Amp Distribution, which is where the X88IR comes from too. So if I say bad, that's what I mean. I'm talking about Boutique amps. If you get one of those, you're looking at $4 grand. If you're looking at the new Engel SCFE, which that amp is amazing and I really want one too, that's kind of knocking on the door of like $5 grand too. So for like a very high-end tube amp, you're gonna pay a pretty price. That's just the way the economy and things are right now. So that's why I said that you can get this for under $2,000, and it sounds great. You can put it in a rack, you can take it to gigs. There's so much flexibility with it, and it allows you to do so many different things. If you have made it to this part in the video, you are absolutely amazing. I know I just talked a bunch of stuff. Look, if you thought this video was cool, please leave me a thumbs up. I hope if you're coming out here to check out if the X88IR is right for you, I hope I really helped you. I really love it. It integrates so well with what I already had. That's what makes things so simple. And it sounded exactly the way I thought it would. Now, it's not going to sound exactly the same as the original X88. It's just not. just due to time difference, just due to components, just due to everything. But it still has that same that Soldano soul in it. It sounds great. It does so many things so well. And I hope this helped you if you watched it. If you thought this video was cool, leave me a thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed, you really should be. I do lots of cool stuff. I don't want you to miss any of that stuff. And I say this to the end. I didn't put it at the beginning like I normally do. So if you're still here, you're amazing. You chose to spend some time with me, and there's so much other things you could have been doing, and I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.